Namajan situation underneath currently
Well, the March 7th attack against a UN helicopter that was rescuing South Sudanese military officials from Nasir County who were under attack from the White Army led to a retaliation from the South Sudanese government on March 17th, just 3 days ago, that led to the loss of lives of about 20 people. In this video, I'm going to tell you about that specific attack that happened 3 days ago and more details that are coming from that attack, and who are the White Army and what are the repercussions of such an event that has made the South Sudanese country to be at the brink of another war. Well, this is Bonafide. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit that notification button so that when I release something new on the South Sudanese crisis, you get notified as soon as possible. Well, an airstrike, or what others are terming as air bombing, happened in Nasir County in South Sudan by the South Sudanese government. And this strike by the South Sudanese Air Force led to the loss of lives of at least 20 people in the country's east. And this is less than 2 weeks after the government forces withdrew from the area following intense fighting with an ethnic militia. And this airstrike was part of the increased tensions in South Sudan, with one party leaving the peace deal. We're talking about Riek Machar's SPLM-IO, that is the Sudanese People's Liberation Movement in opposition, leaving the peace deal and making the security situation in South Sudan to be fragile. Now, among the pivotal forces that are being talked about in this upscale of clashes in South Sudan are the White Army. Who are the White Army and why are they fighting the South Sudanese government? Now, the White Army is a loosely organized group that is mostly comprising of armed ethnic Nuer youth that had threatened to reignite the 2013 to 2018 civil war that took place in South Sudan. In yesterday's videos, I talked about the South Sudanese crisis and the differences between the Dinka and the Nuer and the civil war that happened in South Sudan for 5 years that led to the loss of lives of about 400,000 people and the displacement of about 1 million people from South Sudan into neighboring countries. And the fact that right now the fragile situation has even made the Ugandan troops to be in South Sudan, something that they had previously said that is not true. The South Sudanese Minister of Information came out and said that it is true that the Ugandan People Defense Forces are in Juba to assist the South Sudanese Army to fight off any kind of insurgencies in the country. Now, the clashes that happened on 7th of March, this is the initial attack against the UN helicopter in Nasir County when the South Sudanese army generals were being evacuated, led to the loss of lives of about 27 people, mostly from the South Sudanese army. And further, a statement was released pointing to the direction that a South Sudanese general was among the 27 people who lost their lives in this particular attack on 7th of March. Now, this is the attack that now made the South Sudanese government to send in an airstrike at Nasir County to fight the White Army, which had waged that particular attack. Now, it is also important to note that this White Army is mostly comprised of the Nuer, and these are the people who are very much allied, or the ethnic community that Riek Machar, the first vice president of South Sudan, belongs to. And this has made the differences even wider because right now the White Army is very much aligned to the first vice president, and we can see even changes in government being made by the president, Salva Kiir, in accordance to people who are very allied to the first vice president of the country. And the South Sudanese government has also come out in public to accuse the party of the first vice president, Riek Machar, of collaborating with the White Army that fought alongside Machar's forces during the civil war. And at the same time, the unity government in South Sudan is crumbling because the Riek Machar's party had a following of not only people who are civilians but also in the military. And one of the decisions that were met in 2018 for them to come together and form this unity government was that this army will be merged into one. But as we are seeing, there are stark differences between the people who are allied to Riek Machar and people who are allied to Salva Kiir. And these differences are showing themselves even by the conflict that we are seeing, not only through military, but even diplomatically. And according to Nasir County's Commissioner James Gatloak Liu, who is allied to Machar, he said that the South Sudanese army were likely seeking revenge for the helicopter attack. While South Sudan is a rich country in terms of minerals with vast oil deposits in the country, the nation is second most poorest country in Africa because of the conflicts and the divisions that are existing in the country. Ever since independence, the country went into a civil war and is only healing from the 2018 agreement to form the Government of National Unity that has since tried to work for the people. The tensions and the upscale of conflict in South Sudan will only take this sleeping giant back to conflict, and this will hardly solve the problem of the common South Sudanese who wants basic services provided to him by the country that taxes him. And as we are talking about the clashes that happened in Nasir County that led to all this retaliation by the South Sudanese government, it is important to note that the fighting has gone up to Western Equatorial State in the southwestern part of the country. Therefore, the conflict is now getting out of hand. And if one particular incident or a clash in one region is not contained, then it affects other regions. It is a domino effect that now leads to more violence in different parts of the country. And the decisions of the government that are taken to fire people who are allied to one party is making the situation even worse, because these are the same situations that happened in 2013 that led to the civil war that ran for 5 years. It is the threatening to fire people who are allied to one party, for example, the Nuer, people who are allied to Dinka. That is what happened in 2013 when President Salva Kiir fired Riek Machar, then threatened to fire other people who are allied to Riek Machar, and then Riek Machar went on to call him a dictator, and that spiraled into now the civil war that ran for 5 years. These were the signs of what led to the loss of lives of 400,000 people in South Sudan, and that should not be repeated.